Modern fashion is in a crazy state. Consumers are less educated on quality, which has allowed luxury brands to sell subpar products for inflated prices. In 2018, Balenciaga moved the production of the Triple S from Italy to China. Representatives of the brand said that China had the capacity to produce lighter shoes as the reason why they moved production to China. This was a horrible line of reasoning that was essentially an admission of using cheaper materials, despite since then increasing the price of the Triple S sneakers. Customers who own pairs that were produced in Italy and in China have stated that the Italy produced pairs are of a way higher quality than the China ones. Yet, in a wider sense, no one questions these decisions made by luxury brands, and consumers continue to mindlessly consume their products. In this 4-part interview series, I speak to fashion designers to unpack this issue and to get to the bottom of what good quality actually means in fashion. In this episode, I head to the Central St. Martin's MA studio to speak to Traiceline Pratt, a womenswear design student. He spoke about garment construction, the fast nature of the current fashion industry, and why he likes using specific fabrics. Now, before you watch the video, I do apologize that there is some background noise during this interview. This is because I had to interview him in the middle of a pattern making class, so we were actually filming in the middle of the class, so yeah. Apologies once again.
My name is Traiceline Pratt. I'm a fashion designer studying MA Womenswear at Central St. Martin's. I mean, currently right now, in my opinion, what high quality clothing is I think it's more than just like fabrication, more than just a well-made garment. Like, I feel as though that like maybe back in the day you could have got away with just fabrication and just like unique stitching and stuff like that, but for me right now I feel as if that like the times that we represent right now, I feel as if the backstory and why the garment was made is far much more important than just like what it was made out of. Because like a lot of times I use nylon and polyester, but that's because the story that I'm trying to tell, nylon and polyester best fit that narrative. So that doesn't mean like a cashmere is far much better than that. You know, like I feel as though that like it definitely does depend on like the narrative that you're trying to go in or tell.
Is there a misconception that certain fabrics are always going to be low quality? Because like nylon and polyester is different types and grades. So what would you say about that?
You know, I do think that people are always going to look at some fabrics as like lower quality than other, and that's just because of, I guess, that's just human nature of trying to one-up each other, you know. The fact to say that like I wear silk or I wear cashmere and you wear nylon and polyester, I think is more so just like humans just trying to constantly one-up each other. Necessarily like, you know, if you wear cashmere on like Mount Everest, you know, versus somebody who's wearing like nylon and polyester on Mount Everest, like who do you think is wearing a better quality garment, you know? So yeah, I do think is one, I think it depends on the environment that you're in, and then two, it depends on, I guess, your standards and your means as who you are as a person, what dictates what is higher quality fabrics than the next.
So, in your opinion, how would you describe a well-made garment? Like if you saw a garment and you're like, oh, this is well made, what things are you looking for?
I think for me, with a well-made garment, I think, is it functional? Does it have like, what purpose does it serve in that environment that it's in? And then definitely like, I do feel as though that like construction of it is very important as well. You know, I necessarily don't agree with like all of these, like the deconstruction situation. I agree with it to a certain extent, because like if it's done like intentionally and if it's done correctly, it's beautiful. But then I think some people use that method just to to mask that they can't make a really good garment, you know. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So
That is a good point, because a lot of people reference Margiela with that, where they'll make a garment that isn't properly made, and then they'll say it's deconstructed.
yeah.
It's quite hilarious that you brought that up.
You know, I spoke to somebody about this, like if you know the painter Jackson Pollock, right? Like he created like drip painting. So someone such as him, right? Like him creating drip painting and coming up with that technique. If you look at his past work, you know, it's very much like, it's beautiful, you know. And then he stumbled upon drip painting. It wasn't, and then you have people who can't necessarily do art, and they do drip painting, and it's like, oh, I'm an artist. Like, no, that's just quite easy to do, man. Like you just literally, you know, like someone like Jackson Pollock, him doing it versus somebody who can't draw or paint and doing it is two completely different things. So Margiela, the history of Margiela and what he did before coming to that, you know, like look at that and then look at what he came up to, and then look at people who just decide to do reconstruct situations. Like it's like the beauty is night and day between both, you know. So yeah.
So why do you think, this is the last question actually, why do you think that the quality of clothing in general is getting worse? Is it because people are less knowledgeable about what a good quality garment is, or is it another reason?
I think one, it is people are less knowledgeable of what good quality clothing is, and that's because, and I think it does it does play a part of like just like this hype culture and like this fast pace of like fashion. Like right now, like I think like a lot of the clothing that we're seeing in luxury fashion isn't necessarily luxury fashion, it's fast luxury. Like, so basically like maybe the same thing H&M is doing, but just like they have like better ateliers and they have like, you know, more expensive fabric. But the pace of fashion is like, it's, I don't know, man. Like me personally, like I came from a fine arts background, so coming into fashion and coming into this pace is so quick, and I don't think you have enough time to actually make a quality garment, because like people are, and this, it also has to play like social media and stuff like that, because like people want to see things fairly quickly.
Fast, yeah.
So it's like you don't necessarily have the time. If you want to be like a business person, you don't necessarily have the time to sit down and like think about every garment and how they're constructed and making like the perfect garment all the time. You know, maybe if you're a bit smaller brand, you could do that. If you're putting out like, let's just say 1 or 2 collections a year, like someone at a mass scale who's putting out like maybe like 10 collections a year, you know, like do they necessarily have the time? But not to make an excuse, because even though if they don't have the time, they still have the people, they still have the resources to do it. So it's like, man, it's a very gray area, that situation. And I think it all depends on people's like their ethos and their like the core values of the company to dictate that, you know. Like me personally, I value time before putting out work. You know, I don't think I'm gonna let anybody rush me. You know, people who want to buy the work will buy the work, and people who just can't wait for the work, then, you know, there's a lot of brands out there, you know, and it might hurt me, it might not. I mean, you know, we'll just have to see. But yeah.